Hi guys and welcome back to the YouTube channel. So today we're going to talk about how therapists can set fees that feel ethical and sustainable as well. So talking about fees can feel surprisingly heavy for therapists, not because you don't understand money and not because you don't deserve to be paid properly, but because in therapy money is never just about money. It can touch guilt, it can touch identity, it can touch care, and it can touch the fear of being judged. And it can also create this inner conflict. Yeah, I want my practice to be sustainable, but I don't want to become someone who only cares about income. So many therapists stay in a difficult middle place. They keep their fee lower than they need to, they avoid raising it. They do not clearly state it on their website, they offer concessions without a risk structure, or they quietly absorb the cost of late cancellations, unpaid admin, room hire, supervision, CPD, notes, emails, preparations, and recovery time. And on the surface, this can feel caring, but it can feel also generous, it can feel ethical. But over time, unclear or unsustainable fees will create a lot of pressure in your background, and that pressure can affect your therapy, your energy, your boundaries, and the relationship with your own practice. So in this video, I want to talk about how therapists can set fees that feel both ethical and sustainable as well. Not greedy, not inflated, not cold, but clear, fair, and able to support your work properly. So let's talk about the problem with seeing fees as a moral test. So one of the biggest mistakes therapists make is treating their fee as a moral test, as if a lower fee automatically means that they are more caring, as if a higher fee automatically means that they are becoming less ethical or less caring about their patients, as if being accessible and being sustainable are always in conflict. But that is not always true. A fee is not only a number, it is part of the structure that allows the practice to exist. So it helps pay for the visible session time, yes, but it also supports your invisible work around your sessions, the notes, the admin, the supervision, the professional development, the emotional preparation, the room hire, the insurance, the website, the directory listings, the time spent responding to inquiries, and the recovery space needed to remain clinically present. So when therapists only charge for the visible hour, then they will often forget that the visible hour is supported by a much wider professional structure. So that's really something important to remember. And if that structure is not paid for somehow, then the therapist usually pays for it with stress, overworking, resentment, or reduced capacity. So that is why the question is not what is the lowest fee I can ethically charge, but a more appropriate question would be what fee allows this practice to remain caring, professional, and sustainable over time. So that question creates a very different kind of decision. So ethical fees are not about charging the maximum. So setting a sustainable fee doesn't mean charging the maximal possible amount. I won't say that you should charge $200 for an hour, but it also doesn't mean that copying online business advice that says raise your prices until people complain. And it doesn't mean ignoring the real financial pressure that many clients face as well. So for therapists, ethical fee setting needs more nuance than that. And the goal is not to squeeze as much as possible from the market, but the goal is to create a fee structure that is honest, transparent, and sustainable enough for the therapist to keep offering a good work. Good for your client, but good for you as well. So that means looking at the full picture, your training and experience, all of your costs, your weekly capacity, your location, your clinical intensity, your room hire, platform fees, admin load, supervision, CPD, desired number of client sessions, and the amount of recovery time you realistically need to keep practicing well. So, because a fee that only works if you see too many clients, skip admin, ignore recovery, or keep your diary overloaded is not really a sustainable fee. It may look accessible on paper, but it may quietly push the therapist toward burnout. And burnout doesn't serve clients either. So ethical fees should not be based only on what feels emotionally comfortable to say. They should be based on what the practice actually needs to remain viable, safe, and humane as well for you and for the client. So let's talk about the hidden cost of undercharging. So undercharging can look harmless from the outside, but inside the private practice, it often creates hidden consequences. And the first one is overcapacity. So if your fee is too low, then you may need too many sessions to reach a stable income or an income that you would like to achieve. That can make your week heavier than your nervous system can realistically hold. So the second consequence is also resentment. So not always obvious resentment toward clients, but subtle resentment toward the practice. The feeling that you are working constantly, but still not feeling safe financially. So the feeling that you are giving a lot, but the system is not giving enough back. The third the consequence is boundary erosion. So when money already feels tight, then it becomes hard to hold cancellation policies, harder to say no to unsuitable times, harder to protect admin space, harder to take time off, harder to make calm decisions, and harder to keep your private life intact. So the fourth consequence is avoidance. If you feel guilty about your fee, you may avoid putting it clearly on your website. You may avoid raising it. You may avoid discussing it with confidence. And that lack of clarity will create more awareness for both you and the client. So the issue is not just charge more, but the issue is your current fee helping your practice from steadiness, or is it quietly creating pressure? So that is really the deeper question to ask yourself. So, a better way to decide your fee. A more grounded way to set your fee is to stop starting with shame and start with the system, the structure. So, first look at your real practice costs, not only rent or online platform costs, but also supervision, insurance, CPD, website, directories, accounting, admin time, holidays, sick days, and tax planning. There are many things to include in the decisions of choosing your fees. So second, look at your real clinical capacity. How many sessions can you offer without slowly draining yourself? Not your fantasy capacity, not the capacity that you would like to have, but your actual sustainable capacity. Third, look at your required income. What does the practice need to provide for your life to feel stable enough? Not luxurious, or if you really want to, not exaggerated, but stable. Fourth, look at your values. Do you want to keep a small number of reduced fee spaces? Do you want concessions to be time limited? Do you want a clear review process? Do you want one standard fee and no negotiation? So there is no single perfect answer. But there does need to be a clear answer, because when fee decisions stay vague, then they often become emotionally very exhausting. So a sustainable fee is not just a number you choose; it is really a boundary you design. It is really part of the system It is really the heart of your private practice. So once you have chosen your fee, then the next challenge is to communicate it. So this is where many therapists start to over-explain. They feel they need to justify every wound. They add too much apology. They soften the sentence until it becomes unclear, or they hide the fee until late in the inquiry process. But clear free communication doesn't need to be cold. It can be simple and respectful. For example, my fee is $70 per 50-minute session. And that sentence is not aggressive, it is not uncaring, it is just clear. And you can also add context if needed. My fee is $70 per 50-minute session, and this is reviewed annually. I currently keep a limited number of reduced fee spaces, which can be discussed during the initial consultation if available. So that's another type of example, but the previous one would be largely enough. Really, the problem concerning fees is really linked to your beliefs. And in general, people have a lot of faulty beliefs concerning fees, because when people want to raise their fees, they see that as an unethical decision. But fees are really part of your practice, as I said, because it's not just the fees that you ask to your clients are not only there to buy, I don't know, to go to holidays. They are also there to pay for all of your expenses, and so it's really important to get the larger picture about fees, and always remember that money is linked to value. So if you provide a lot of value to your clients, and that you get them a lot of positive results, then it is just a logical way to receive something in return. And In our word, well, it is money. So with those examples, those communicate the fee, they communicate the structure, they don't apologize, and they don't make the client responsible for managing the therapist's discomfort. So that's also important, because when therapists over apologize for their fees, then the client can sometimes feel the uncertainty. So clear communication helps both people. It gives the client the information they need, and it gives the therapist a professional container to stand inside. So, one fear therapists often have also is that if I set a sustainable fee, does that mean I am abandoning accessibility? And the answer is no. But accessibility, again, needs structure, needs system. If you want to offer reduced fee spaces, that can be a beautiful and values aligned choice, but it needs boundaries. How many reduced fee spaces can you realistically hold? How long do they last? How often are they reviewed? What criteria do you use? What happens when those spaces are full? So without structure, concessions can become a source of guilt, inconsistency, and resentment. But with structure, they can become a clear part of your practice model. You might say, I keep a limited number of reduced fee spaces where possible. These are reviewed periodically and depend on availability, so that kind of language protects both sides. It doesn't promise unlimited access, it doesn't turn every fee conversation into a negotiation, and it allows generosity to exist inside a sustainable container. Because generosity without boundaries often becomes depletion, but generosity with structure can remain humane. So the key message from this video is to be crystal clear about your fees and to directly communicate it without shame. But I wouldn't advise you to reduce your fees or to make like some discount. It's really something that is not productive in the through time. So just assume your fees. You can start with a smaller amount of fees, and then you can increase your fees. But it's really important to choose a fees that correspond to all of the work that you provide to your clients. Because as I said, within your fees, there are different parts: your insurances, your time, your holidays, your your energy, your credentials. So it's really important to remember that bigger picture. So if you're a therapist struggling with your fee, then I want you to remember this. Your fee is not a moral verdict on your care. It is part of this system that allows your practice to continue. A fee that supports your work, your admin, your supervision, your recovery, your development, and your life is not automatically unethical. It may be what allows you to keep practicing well. The goal is not to charge the highest amount possible, but the goal is to charge in a way that is clear, honest, sustainable, and aligned with the kind of practice that you are trying to build. Because when your fee is too vague, too low, or too emotionally loaded, then the pressure doesn't disappear. It usually shows up somewhere else, in your diary, in your energy, your boundaries, your confidence, or in a quiet feeling that your practice is working but not really holding you. So therapists deserve practices that hold them too. So if this video helped you, take one practical step this week, look at your current fee and ask yourself, does this fee support the real cost of practicing well? Don't forget the bigger picture, not just the session, but the whole practice.